Welcome back to the Untrained Outdoorsmen podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jake Fleischman. This podcast is brought to you by Hasio Gear Camouflage, Hunt Arsenal Saddle Hunting Equipment, Catalyst Archery Stabilizers, and lastly, but surely not least, Hunter's Blend Coffee. We appreciate everybody's support, and if you wouldn't mind, head over to Apple and Spotify and leave a 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe and like. Hope you enjoy today's episode. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning back in to the Untrained Outdoorsman podcast. We have a very special episode, someone who I've really wanted to chat and pick their brain for a long time. Most of you that know him personally know him by Troy. The rest on the interwebs know him as the Fairy, coining phrases like adult arrows and such.
Yep.
Mr. Troy Fowler, how are we doing today?
We're good. We got back from the ranch. That stupid pig got away. The wind went west on me and I couldn't hunt him. God, I had him he was so reliable. We were going to whack him. I had a friend of mine who wants to shoot him. And the only wind we can hunt on the ranch is west. And I got it in the scooter. We drove out to get out of the scooter. I stood still for just a second. It was blowing due west. And I was like, can't do it, dude. It's much like a whitetail. If you blow him out with your scent, you could drive in there and run him off and he wouldn't even think nothing of it, because they interact with trucks all the time and stuff. But if you scent blow him out, oh, he'll be gone for a long time. So we're just like, oh.
So even pigs are that sketched out with people scent too?
Well, you got to realize every asshat with a gun's shooting at them.
Yeah, that's
right.
fair.
There's no laws. There are literally no laws. There's no licenses. There's no time. RPGs, helicopters. I've done the helicopter thing. It is freaking spectacular. Nothing gets away from the helicopter, right? And so everybody's got a truck gun. And if there's pigs, they're just shooting at them. I mean, it's hilarious. It's freaking hilarious.
Be the equivalent of probably something like a squirrel around here.
Yeah, right.
Wild West.
Everybody just blasts at them, right? So if they get you a little bit, the scent is the worst. They could see you. I could have driven my truck and run him off. He wouldn't have thought nothing of it. He just thought some rancher was out there farting around with the cows or whatever. He'd have booked it. We'd have never seen him, but he'd have been gone. If we'd have blown him out with our scent, he'd have been gone for probably a week or two. Like they believe their nose. So
yeah, that's
they
interesting.
have that in common. They're not as dumb as everybody says they are. Funniest thing is to watch, like, bring somebody who's never hunted them before and have 15 of them show up. And they move around the whole time and they're pushing each other and they're squealing and running around. And you see the person draw and they go, you got to pick one. Like, you got to pick one. Like, I'll talk to you before. If you go with me, I'll say, if a bunch of them come in, pick one and stay on it. Don't yank it all over the place, because they twitch so much, they'll go broadside and then they'll just change, right? And honestly, the best way to draw on them is with their ass to you. Because they're nice, they're good to shoot quartering away because they have really small kill zone. And the best time to draw and expect to let down is to draw when their ass is to you, stay on them, and if they quarter, blast them. If they do something crazy like run off, let down, they're not leaving. It's a feeder. Once they come in, they're not leaving. It's super fun.
You don't use a blind or anything, right? You're just kind of like in a
we got tripods and some ground stands and stuff, depending on the wind. Mostly it's tripod hunting, 10 feet high, and just to get off the ground a little bit. They do see better than everybody says they do. But yeah, there's something to everything, right? And killing the big ones takes some work. But let's proceed with other topics.
Yeah. I mean, we have the man to talk about all things arrows, all things broadheads. That's kind of what you're known for, I would say. I kind of want to start out each episode with someone I've never talked to, not just for me, but for anybody. I kind of want to know a little bit about you, where you come from, where you're located at, like what kind of hunting you do, and just your background, and how that's kind of shaped your philosophy around your hunting style and these rabbit holes with arrows and broadheads, arrow weights and things like that.
Okay. I came out of the womb with a fishing rod and a gun. No doubt. There's no doubt. I came right out of the chute and I was holding both of them. It's not explainable. Y'all probably know this. Are any of y'all late onset hunters or anything? because I interviewed a guy who was an attorney. We were talking about how to defend bow hunting if he got in a court situation, and he didn't start hunting until he was like 30. And then he just said, I'm going to start bow hunting, right? So I came out of the womb with probably a BB gun and a fishing rod for sure, and just have always been outside. I was always shooting birds and running around, rampaging, God knows what, every creek and critter, crawdads, and the saltwater's my problem in life, honestly. So I shot a bunch of stuff with guns and blah, blah, blah. Love to shoot a shotgun. I've been married for, I don't know, if Julie was here, she could tell me 30 plus years to the same woman. And that is key. I had a lady the other day. I said, hey, I've been married for like 30 years. She goes, to the same woman? And I said, I've never been asked that question. She goes, yeah, if you've had like 5 wives, that's not impressive. Big whoop. And I said, yeah, the same woman. So got 3 great kids. They're all in their 20s. They're out of the house. They have real jobs and love those guys to death. Big family. The ranches that I hunt on is primarily the test lab is my wife's family's. And the ranch fairy name came from I run the ranch. And people would ask, like, no, we're going down and we left something broke. So the ferry's got to fly down there. And it was kind of a jab back at everybody for leaving stuff for me to do. And so when I started the channel, I was like, I wonder if that name's out there. And it wasn't. So there was no marketing plan. It was just that. And then I've bow hunted so long, I'm before carbon. And our bow shot 240 with pins made out of brass, no lighted pins, shooting fingers off a flipper rest. And we were shooting arrows that probably weighed 550 to 600 grains with cut-on contacts, because that's all really existed until the Thunderhead came along. So the Thunderhead was a thing. Like, I'm that old. And the Muzzy came along, and we shot through everything in the old days. And we didn't know why. We didn't expect the arrow to stay in anything, ever. Carbons come along. I went off on that rabbit hole. Overdraws. Have you all seen those? So we would shoot like 25-inch arrows and 29-inch draw. It was a terrible freaking idea. But we did it. And we had 300 grain arrows. We thought, man, that was going to fix everything. The bows were loud. And then I killed a Pope and Young deer in 2008. And I don't care to shoot another deer. Mule deer I'm after, but whitetail deer I couldn't care less. I lost it. And I'm just a weird dude. I fished for sharks for a decade. I caught a 9.6 tiger and an 8.6 bull in the same year, and I quit shark fishing. Like, I accomplished the mission, right? But I never stopped hunting pigs and big ones. So it becomes the same obsession y'all have with whitetails, trying to get deer X in position Y and get them on the ground, right? Deer feeder hunting is not as easy as everybody says, especially if you start targeting specific animals. And I was, at one time, I was probably 50% recovery at a known distance at a deer feeder. I tried everything. I was shooting 400 spine arrows out of a 70-pound bow, like everybody told me to do. I changed broadheads. I shot mechs. I shot freaking cut-on contacts. I shot muzzies. I shot the widest fixed blade I could find to make big holes in them. And I was 50% on the big ones. And this kind of correlates to whitetails. Like, you finally get the right deer in front of you. You're not shooting a 100-pound doe. You're getting a 200. Y'all have big deer up there. You get a 200, 250-pound whitetail in front of you. That is not the same target as a 100-pound deer or a doe or a 1-year-old. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I'm reading everything I can find, and I found Ed's paper. This was like dial-up internet days. This was not, and I was reading it, and I was like, well, hell, I got nothing else to do, and I got nothing to lose. So I dared to put a 300 spine arrow on my bow. I dared to put a 125 grain broadhead on, which was a Magnus stinger at that time. And I dared to put a brass insert that weighed 100 grains and said, "This is insane." And buddy, it looked like I could run past the arrow when I shot it. It looked terrible. And the first 2 pigs I shot, there was smoke behind them. Like a bullet went through them. And remember, this is 20 years of not having that happen. I had some
Yeah.
pass-throughs, but not like a bullet. And I went, "What the hell is this?" And then I learned to tune, and I got better at doing arrow flight.
I think it's important to kind of figure out where you're coming from. Is
Mhm.
you're saying once you started pig hunting more, you're going after that bigger pig, and then you're not successful on a, and they start stacking up where your percentage of kills are not good. Were you making good
Yeah.
shots and you weren't getting pass
Yeah.
throughs, or was that
I
like
was
that
getting like
kind of?
half an arrow in them, you know? Or it's so here's the problem with elevated shots on a pig. They don't have any legs. It's very common to pass through, hit the ground. It would have passed through if you were on the ground, but it hits the dirt. The broadhead does and stays in them. But I wasn't finding them. And it's just like, well, god dang, I got guns. Like, what's the point of doing this if that's as successful as I'm going to be? And then when I started like really shooting through them, the game started changing. And I was like, okay, well, the arrows are going through like constantly. Then I learned about anatomy a little bit and improved my shot placement, which is much more aggressive towards the front than I thought. And I'll tell you guys this, I think part of the loss, and we'll get into this when we talk about mechanicals. I think you can't, Ed says this all the time. I wish we could recover the ones we lost because you would learn more than the ones that roll up. The roll ups don't tell you anything. Perfect. But if you could get one that you lost, you would learn more. I think the broadheads were dulling. I think the steel couldn't handle impact. I think they were hitting they're covered in mud. Their rib spacing is about 3/4 of an inch wide. They're really heavily boned in the kill zone, and it's an unforgiving penetration platform. Nothing moves, nothing flexes. They're like bricks. And I really do believe that they died 800 yards out or next day. And I think the broadheads couldn't handle impact and dulled. Totally anecdotal comment. But I can tell you when I shoot a one-piece head like the one I showed you, and I've stropped it, and I've gotten it to where it'll just like literally shave hair.
Yeah.
I kill the crap out of them when I hit them right.
And that I would imagine, just the structural integrity, like you're saying, of the blades. If it goes through that first set of hide, it would have already been dull by the.
Yeah,
You're
I
not
think
cutting
that was
anything.
correct. Right, it's a needle through yarn, right, and it
Yeah.
was sharp in my hand. So, I happened to be shooting the Stinger. I have a professional relationship with those guys. They're one of my sponsors, but they do a pretty good job. The broadheads are sharp. That's when I started smashing them. I didn't know how to connect the dots on what I was getting though. Like I had the data, but I didn't know how to go, what did I do? I changed too many things. I went up in spine, I increased mass, I increased FOC, and I put on contact. Which one was it? Right I put 15 things into the algorithm and you can't pluck it. The rearview mirror and go, what could it be?
Yeah, you jumped right to something that worked, and then you were trying to figure out what
Correct.
What the hell?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get to shoot like, I don't know, 100 I've shot easy. And I've been in on more than that with other people. And I think that's it, but I can't tell you I know that. I just know that now when I've lost 2, I did a whole video on losing when I lost, and I shot another one that was absolute giant. He was probably 280 and pushing 300 because we've killed 4 birds at my local place. And he was one of those. And by the way, to anyone who wants to video hunting, make sure the freaking camera's rolling. Note to you, make sure the numbers are spinning and it's recording. I've had about 5 that I didn't catch. And in this situation, there was one little boar, he was probably 150, and there was this gigantic one I've been hunting, and he just walks right out. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And they don't like, the big one didn't like the little one around, and he was pushing him. I look up, I hit the record, I sit there for a second, I see the numbers rolling. I said, here we go. I draw, and right when I hit the release, he's jumped forward to push that pig, and I hit him 4 inches behind the crease. Arrow went 30 yards past him. He didn't die. He came out on another feeder 2 weeks later. He's still out there. But the key to this comment is my arrow didn't fail. It wasn't the blades. It wasn't, I didn't have a low penetration. I didn't have a arrow system that was the problem. He moved. I mean, right at release. He was going to push that pig, and he literally just lurched forward. I looked at the video, I was just like, okay, that's a month and a half in the 100-degree heat. Because summertime's a great time to kill the big ones.
Probably not a lot of people out there.
I guess, to put it simply to the crowd, I failed a lot. And I said, there's no reason to fail. Can you change something to make yourself not fail?
And then it was just starting back from ground zero, what things from before didn't work, and draw those conclusions. Plus, you said you found a good resource and add stuff. And on paper, maybe explain some things, but being that person that has access to all these pigs, and you're like, man, I need to, tinker and test, figuring out why did what I started doing work? What was that first light bulb or that first little thing that you figured out?
It was consistently putting the arrows in the dirt. It was through them every time. That's when the light bulb went off. It's like, that's all an arrow can do. The goal, you should never leave an arrow in a whitetail deer. They're freaking cream puffs. And it sounds like a super bold statement because there's so much video of half arrows in deer that it becomes something that it's imprinted on you so much, you get used to seeing it. And when I started just ripping through them, it's like, okay, practically speaking, the only thing an arrow can do is completely pass through the deer. That's 100% optimal performance. And when you try to set that bar, then you get into the mad science crap and the why. And I'm a curious dude. The heaviest arrow I've killed with is 1,035 grains, going like 170. Interestingly, the 3 pigs I shot with 1,000 grains didn't jump the string. I don't know what that is. And that arrow, it was horrible trajectory. I mean, the trajectory is terrible, and you better be pretty accurate. Holy smokes, it just goes boom and like they're not there.
I remember watching, I think it was Tom Miranda on the Outdoor Channel, and he was hunting in Africa, and they used to actually fill their shafts when they got there full of sand just to get more arrow weight hunting on like gay buffalo and stuff.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And that's an interesting side note on Cape Buffalo, particularly. We're actually seeing better performance out of 70-pound bows than we are anything over that. And Jake, earlier you said 80 is hard to tune, right? It's kind of weird or whatever. Now, the arrows you would shoot at the Cape Buffalo will take an 80-pound bow and make it shoot 250, because you'll shoot 800 grains or something if you're going to really want to kill one. If you want to wound one, shoot less than that and get stomped, and have a guy shoot it with a 458 and then take pictures with your bow and you didn't kill it.
Like,
if we're seeing better performance at 70 pounds, because we get hundreds of reports back from outfitters in the foundation. on Cape Buffalo, like big stuff. And the overlapping ribs and the whole 9 yards. You're not missing the ribs. Doesn't happen. We're seeing better performance and more pass-throughs with a 70 than we are with 80 and 90.
Like we talked about before we started recording, I think something that I've noticed too is so many feet per second over 300. Good luck to get an arrow to fly perfectly straight. I think there's a very good sweet spot, like you're saying. If you're going to shoot that higher poundage, you need to make it heavy enough to where you're in that 270 to 285 ish, like that range. And I think that's like optimal for whatever reason, optimal for performance, like arrow flight. We'll get into the whole arrow weight and FOC later.
There's got to be somewhere you're losing that energy transfer, whether it's like an underspined arrow, because I mean at 80 pounds you're probably shooting, they do make like 200 spine arrows, but I think you're losing a lot of that
150s.
But I think you're losing energy in that arrow coming out of 80 pounds, and you might be leaving a lot of that energy even in the bow.
I'll have to look at that on LabRadar data. I'll have to look that up on LabRadar data. You may be right. I've not pushed it out that far. The heaviest LabRadar data, I've got 713 grains for momentum and KE and all that. But maybe it flatlines. Like maybe you don't get anything.
I'm not a physicist, but you got to have an equal and opposite reaction. At a certain point, if you get something too heavy, you're fighting the forces going out of the bow, and that bow is trying to push that arrow. Well, that arrow weighs so goddamn much, and that arrow is not wanting to go. So I think you're, at 70 pounds, you're getting that peak, and anything after that, the equipment just cannot function at that high rate, if that makes any sense.
I can confirm for you guys that over 800 on my bow, and the bow pushes back.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. It's
so like the curve might be optimal at that certain poundage and that certain spine. Your influencers that are shooting these 80, 90 pound bows now, all the arrows that they're sponsored by only go to a 250. So they're naturally underspined. And I don't think they're necessarily shooting straight. Yeah. And they're all shooting expandable broadheads, so you wouldn't know.
And I remember watching.
If those guys would go to 600 grains, they would be unstoppable. I mean, oh my God, you could shoot a deer literally anywhere. 75 pounds and a 600 grain arrow with a single bevel on it. That's one piece. Literally, if they're 1/4 2, you just put it on the bone and it'd be like a laser beam. It's incredible what they do. Okay, that gives me something to think about. Yep.
Good we're gonna keep. Now that we're talking about this arrow flight thing, I want you to dive into that a little bit, because I've listened to some other conversations you've had, and that seems like where it starts for you, or the first thing you kind of started to looking at is getting each arrow. Arrow flight being one of the more important things. So what do you look for as far as like, what's your process on how to get an arrow to fly right? And what did you, when you first started figuring this stuff out, look at to try to figure that out?
So I didn't have much guidance, and the industry isn't much help to make fixed blade broadheads fly. And I know you want to talk about that later. So I decided that I would go back to Dr. Ed's stuff, and his gold standard is bare shaft and every single arrow. That is key. So now, this is the worst thing I can get, because now I know I got to bare shaft them all. And it's a ton of work. Every single one. I can't go back. I sent you that picture of those 4 arrows, and it was marked 1, 2, 3, 4, and all 4 of them were knock tuned and bare shaft, and they were perfect, right? And another key pro tip to everybody: if you bare shaft and your natural arrow flight with fletched arrows looks weird, throw the bare shaft on. You'll find out your bow went out of tune. You'll find out you knocked it. It will tell you. It is like the truth detector. Like if you bare shaft your bow, build some arrows, and then you're banging around. You guys climb trees and hump it off in the woods and stuff. We drive the scooter out and climb on a tripod. Come on, man. Candy asses. But so it's not a lot of opportunity to bang your bow, but y'all are backpacking them in and I've done all that out west, but it's hard on them. I had my backpack roll down a mountain like 200 yards. I had to go get it with my bow on it. Just freaking awesome. And so, should you be shooting and then all of a sudden it's just not behaving, or you throw a broadhead on and you're like 4 inches to the right for wasn't that way last month? Go put that bear shaft up if you started with a bear shaft, and it will immediately tell you if something got out of whack. By the way, there's lots of nuts and bolts on a bow and arrow. I like to say arrow because that's what Ed says. So my standard deal is, now that I have these terrible things, I have to bear shaft and noctune every single one of them, and I marked these. So there's my noctune. Okay, I shoot feathers because these all four weigh 8 grains total, so I get free 4 to center out of that. But there's my noctune right there, and that's where I shoot it. I shoot that up.
So you just marked it with a Sharpie for people that can't see, to make sure it's facing, I would imagine, in the same direction, either up or down
Yeah.
every time.
It's got to be kind of bright. Well, I mean, you're sitting in the stand, so you'll have time to look at it. And then I also mark the shaft down. You can't really see that, but I mark it on the label too, because from handling them, you'll rub the noctune off.
Yeah.
So I mark the shaft as well, and then I set it aside, and I go shoot the next one, and I'll get through a dozen, and then I got to fletch.
So for people that are listening that are thinking about doing this being the first step, if they get a dozen arrows, right, and they're at the paper, you shoot every single shaft 7 yards.
And make sure that the target's far enough back that the shaft clears the paper. That's huge. If you put it right up against the paper, the shaft will wobble in the paper and you'll need to pop some Xanax. So instead of Xanax, just put the target so it'll clear the paper and you can get your tears. And I'm not I shoot a strap release because I can strap it on my bow. I'm that practical. Like, I don't have a thumb or any of that stuff. Whatever y'all do, it's fine. I don't care what release you use. But if you will bear shaft every single arrow, and I'm getting ready to open up a private channel, and I went through every step of going from a bear shaft to a fletched arrow for people who want to learn about that. Fletching jigs, glues, all the mistakes I've made making arrows. But man, if you can get bear shafts to fly, every single one, here's what usually happens. You go to the shop, even if you're fletch tuning, you'll shoot one arrow and you'll call it good.
Mm-hmm.
They don't bend the same direction. That sounds like it's kind of crazy. But if you take a dozen and you shoot them through paper, you'll have 2 bullet holes in it. One will tear a little weird. Don't believe that right off the bat. Pull that one, set it aside. Shoot through them. The ones that go, done. Okay? Mark them wherever they are. Set them aside. Say you got 5 left. This is very typical with a dozen arrows. Okay? Reshoot those before you start screwing with them because you might have been the monkey. You're shooting an offhand apparatus. You're not that good. Believe it or not. Reshoot the ones that didn't tear right and make sure it wasn't you. I also don't recommend shooting 40 times. I usually shoot like 4 or 5. I usually shoot 4 or 5, perfect. I come home, I fletch them, I go back or do it in the garage or whatever. You don't want to get tired. If you got 4 left that are weird, like tearing a little bit, turn the knock. There's no science to it. Spin the knock.
So you're just
I usually
turning
put
it,
them label up and start with that.
and then you're just turning them like a quarter of a turn each time to see.
Sure. There's no science to it.
And then eventually one of those positions is going to tear the best out of that arrow.
And when I started doing that, one of my subscribers early on named Mike Tanaka convinced me. I was like, "You're full of crap, dude. They're all the same." He's like, "No, they're not. There's a seam in there. There's a stiff and a soft side."
Does that correlate with the spine at all? Have you ever spine tested your arrows and then matched?
I have. Yeah, I have. You can buy a spine tester for like $180, or you can go shoot your bow. So
But does it correlate with your mark though? Is kind of my question.
I have not done that, honestly. The only thing I've done with a spine tester was see how widely varied the spine can be. It can be
Because I
vary as
know
much as 20 points either side of 300.
that, and all you hear too is why would you bear shaft when you hunt with fletchings or veins?
Because I will answer that question. Great question, sir. If your launch is imperfect, you're screwed. That's why 400 spine on 70 pounds. Good luck with that crap.
You don't
They're
notice it
going to be
until you start
wild.
shooting broadheads and trying to get them to fly.
100%. Right. So fletchings, that is a great question, dude. I'm going to actually do this video. Fletching's goal in life is to correct you or when you're shooting like that at a deer. Any asshat smoking a cigarette in his flip flops can shoot a bow and arrow. It is 0 degrees. You went in 3/4 of a mile. You've been hanging out of a saddle. You got to piss, and you haven't pulled your bow back, and here he comes. It's not the same situation as 3D in the summertime. So you want your shafts to be launching perfect and let these guys help you. They also offset lift on the broadheads. We can get into that if you want to. That is make your head smoke kind of stuff. But I have an example here, if we get there, that'll smoke your head. There's a fixed blade broadhead. It's fletched. And it's got feathers on the back, right? And when you show people that, they go, oh, I understand broadhead lift. Same thing. That's what fixed blades do. They press into the atmosphere. So your launch needs to be absolutely perfect. The minute it clears the string, your fate is done. You can't pull it back. You don't have a guided missile.
So is there any other kind of tuning that you do at all, or is it just those bear shafts? Then you fletch them, like walk back or anything? You just kind of let her rip at that point.
This
You
is
know they're
gonna.
flying
I'm
good?
gonna sound like the total sellout of all time. I don't have broadhead flight issues at all.
And that's
2 or 3 different
exactly why I asked.
platforms. The amount of work it takes to go through all dozen and knock tune them and make sure they're right and all that stuff and fletch them, it's a ton of work. It's not super efficient and easy. Hey, Jesse, what's in the back wall there? Are those giant bluegills?
Yeah, there's two 11-inch bluegills and then a 17-inch crappie and then a black squirrel.
Nice. We won't go fishing. Sorry, I got a fishing problem. Like it's awful. You should see the amount of lures right here. It's ridiculous. Okay, we'll stop.
That's for
But
after. When we're done, we'll talk fishing.
yeah, we're done. Podcast is over. Fowler wants to talk fishing. So yeah, and like I said, I'm not a very technical shooter. I think it was before we were talking. I had my bow restrung last year, and they just set it up pretty square. Like no cam lean, timing's good, launcher's good, and I didn't have to do nothing to it. Boom, and it shot bear shaft, and I didn't have to mess with it. But I'm shooting a 250 with 300 grains up front. So my standard hunting platform is about 630, and a lot of forward to center, but tons of work into the bear shaft stuff.
Sure.
Tons.
Yeah, that's
time.
why I asked.
It's time. It's just a time investment.
You're putting that time and effort up front right away instead of doing it kind of half-assed as you go in 3 steps. Where at the end, if you get it perfect by doing 4 different kinds of tuning, you could probably go back with a bear shaft and they shoot bear shaft. But why not just do that right away?
So y'all are bow guys. Y'all are much more bow guys than I was because y'all did indoor and all that stuff, and that's way super more technical. When we do, I'm going to do a second podcast, by the way, with you guys. I want y'all to tell me about bows. So we'll go the other way, and I'll shut up. It'd be nice, it'd be refreshing, not have me talking the whole time because I'm a yapper. But why not shoot the arrows under exactly the same conditions with the exact same monkey on the bow? And I don't know if that matters or not. I think it does.
So I've had it already where the way you index even, and it could just be from a poor tune, but I've had it already indexing a 3-blade fixed head with 3 vanes. If I've had it already where if they are not indexed correctly, the vanes matching the blades, you'll have poor arrow flight. So why would I not check all my arrows? Because when I go hunting, I usually just don't grab one arrow out. I grab whatever hell arrow I grab right away. So I don't want to worry about it. So I'd rather have
Yep.
all my stuff dialed in to what it should be to have peak performance in the field. And I do believe in practicing with, fixed blades. You're able to resharpen your blades.
Yeah, right.
So why not
just
practice?
commit one to just make one your shooter and don't worry about
Yeah.
it. Just move it arrow to arrow. That's what I do. I have a couple of shooters that I've bounced off rocks and stuff. So whatever, it's straight.
But if you think about it too, like let's just compare it to a different type of tuning, right? Instead of bear shaft, that's all pretty controlled. It's a lot easier to pull an arrow, take 3 steps to a bale, pull it out. You're outside shooting 30 yards trying to walk back in broadhead tune, where how much variation is there in 30 yards with you aiming and making a good shot?
What I believe, and I don't know how to prove, is that because I know I don't hold the bow. If I hand you my bow, you're probably going to grip it different and stuff. Like you're not me. Like your arms are this much shorter or longer, whatever. I'm thicker than you are front to back, facial features, all that stuff, right? And I really do think that if you can get bear shafts or you will put in the work, you can get it done. You just got to freaking put your head down. You are shooting an unfletched, the least stable condition, and you're shooting it. Because I've put out a bunch of videos on noctuning and stuff, and everybody's like, nah, just float them in water, put them on this thing and spin them around, all this stuff. And I keep going to myself, why wouldn't you just shoot them in exactly the same condition that they will be shot when you've fletched? I might just be an old geezer who just being hard-headed. And if I am, just tell me, because I've been married for 30 plus years. Trust me, I get a lot. My wife's real small and freaking spicy, so I can handle it. But does that make sense? Like everything's replicating what you're going to do.
And the answer is going to be right in front of you.
Right. The thing about I want to touch on this one last time, and we'll keep going. If you can bear shaft and having one around and you see something weird, throw it on. Oh my God, it'll show your bow so fast. And you go to the shop or whatever, if you got a press or whatever, and you know how to do all that stuff. I do not. But it'll expose that it's the bow. It's awesome. It's super fast. You shoot one time. Shit, it ripped 4 inches. 2 weeks ago, it wasn't? Okay, sorry.
I just wanted to kind of transition the one thing before we get into how broadheads, relate to arrow flight. What about like components, like the hardware, quality of that, the integrity of that, and then like when you are bear shaft tuning and you go through 12 arrows, do you ever throw any out like that are just junk or like a dud?
Yeah, they're made a million miles at a time, and there's some of them that just don't behave. So we'll keep unpacking stuff I forget to say. I apologize. Classically, if I bear shaft a dozen, I'll get 10 that are nails and 2 of them that are just close. I will mark those, and I'll shoot field points with them. I ain't worried about that. They'll fly. Field points are liars, 100%. The biggest liar for arrow flight in the world. You have to shoot a broadhead with fletchings to find out if you're really good, if you're on. Okay? You obviously bear shaft with a field point. And I just said field points are liars. You have to go to fletched broadheads and double check everything. But when you get going with the bear shafts, I lost my train of thought. 100% lost my train of thought.
How much thought you put into like the quality of components or as far as arrow flight goes and tuning?
I shoot exactly what I shoot. So I shoot sleeve tap jacket system. It's 100 grains. aluminum post over steel sleeve. That's the most durable thing we found. We think it's the flexibility of the aluminum inside. You should, if you buy a component that is flat on the back, where is the camera? Right there. See how that one's really flat? Don't buy it. You'll snap your shafts off. That is a flex point as a hard edge. You want rounded ones. See how that's rounded? The shaft, when it hits the target, can flex around the corner. Because they shake. When you shoot foam, they do this. They look like they're going donk, but they're not. You can't catch it with your naked eye.
Yeah.
So on your components, just don't get the flat ones.
So you're saying for the people that are audio only, you're
Huh?
talking the insert, that portion that slides inside the shaft, that back
Inside
end,
the shaft.
the bevel is more rounded and it's not a hard edge. Because
That's
if the
correct.
arrow flexes at all, it's going to be hard on the carbon.
It does, and over time, what'll happen, it'll just crack. It's just a long-term durability thing. As far as components are concerned, it's completely overblown. And the biggest failures in bow hunting are the broadheads. Rarely
So-
do you see an insert fail and cause the broadhead to fail. So the
you're
one thing
more
that Go ahead.
more worried about maybe like the weight that you want in a component more than the like
Mhm.
necessarily a specific kind of component or material or what have
Right,
you. Like what
right.
comes with the arrow, as long as it's the right weight, would probably be fine as long as
Yeah,
as
yeah.
a
I have
standard.
I've shot a lot of stuff with 2.46s with the old school. The inserts that just slide in. They die. Rarely do you have a mushroomer. They mushroom after they hit a rock. And that's a pretty unforgiving target, right? But the components are more about the weight. Most of them have marks on them. You can cut them off. This one, you could make a 65 grainer. I think it's the lightest it goes by cutting the post down. And then you can dial in however much mass you want up front. If you are going to put 250 up front, okay? Not real heavy. Put it in the broadhead because they're thicker. It's the only way they can make them heavy. So I have a ton of people who say, hey man, I put a 150 grain insert and a 100 grain broadhead on. And I'm like, bro, 100% structural integrity problem. The only way they can make them lighter is lower grade materials, thinner blades, and everything gets narrower. And that's the thing that hits the deer. So go to like a 200 grain broadhead and a 50 grain insert.
That's one of the questions I was going to ask you at the end that a listener sent us. But we'll answer it right now since you just said it. They said, what's the difference if I put a 150 grain insert in and a 100 grain broadhead versus a 250 grain broadhead and a 50 grain insert? And they equal the same. But you're saying that putting that weight in the broadhead is beefing up the broadhead. It's going to be better quality. It's going to hold up better. And the broadhead's the more important portion.
The blades, they're able to thicken up the ferrules. And you make the actual device that hits the animal more robust. And not to mention, you don't want the weight pushing the flimsy ass broadhead behind the broadhead, which is going to torque the hell out of it. So yeah, I've got lots of people who shoot 50 grain inserts and 200 grain broadheads, and they're shooting 550s, 560, nothing crazy, but a really, really good penetrator. So yeah, that's the way to go.
Makes sense. So beef up the broadhead, not the insert. Perfect.
100%. 100%.
So let's perfect transition into, I want to get into different styles of broadheads, maybe least desirable to desirable and why. And we can just talk about them. Our thoughts, your thoughts.
Jesse, you have anything on top of that about broadheads you want to hear?
Different
I've
arrow
broken
blades.
most of them.
So I struggled
On
with
what?
I struggled with getting
With flight.
fixed blades to fly, and I'd have issues. I'd have better results with a 3 or 4 blade versus a 2 blade,
Mm-hmm.
and we could probably touch on that eventually
Okay.
in this subject. But
Yeah,
That's what I kind of
we'll
meant
do
is
that.
like not necessarily like a deep dive into them, but how each of those blade configurations or styles would relate to how
Mhm.
good it flies.
Okay, so remember my gold standard is broadhead in the dirt, no matter what it hits, ideally, because you can't necessarily control that. No, you can't control that. When the deer moves, your point of impact has moved. When they stand still, about 90% of stuff works. It's when they don't, or you make a mistake, or they're weird angle, or some stupid thing happens, or they're way too close. Way too close sucks. You're shooting through bone. I mean, 12 feet up in a tree at 8 yards is a shoulder blade shot. There's no almost 100% of the time. So the in Dr. A study, 4 blade broadheads out penetrated 3 on every hit. Thoracic hits, good hits, a broadside, most of his shots were not into heavy bone. That was a study in and of itself. Most of his shots were thoracic, like normal shot placement shots. We can't have failure when you hit them right. That's it. It's that simple. When you hit them right and your arrow fails, what the hell? Fix that. So 4 blades did better than 3. Cut on contact 4 blades did better than punch points all around. And then, of course, the 2 blades out penetrated everything because they're super efficient. Like there's nothing there, right? And he wants the arrow through them. So that's the rough thing. The blade thickness is a big deal. You and I were, I mentioned that I thought I had lost a bunch of animals because the blades couldn't handle impact. So when you start to get flat, you are now approaching, you're not cutting. Nobody takes a steak knife and slams it with a hammer to cut a steak. So as the broadhead blades start to get flat, you are now chopping, which is a resistance force. And Jesse, you apparently know about this Newton guy who's been dead for a while, but they still haven't disproven his stuff.
Yep.
So you are creating an opposite and equal reaction, very high resistance, equal to the pressure exerted. And you're putting the blades on an angle that they're not really designed to. It's like sort of like misusing a knife. You can cut all kind of stuff, but they're terrible pry bars because they're super high tensile. You snap them off because they're being used for the wrong thing. So when the blade angles start to approach more horizontal, the blade edge is now approaching at an angle where it's more likely to roll. They're very narrow, right? It's pretty thin. It's meant to go and cut like a steak knife across a steak, not slam into it like you would hit a hammer on the back of the knife. And then you get the blade erosion. That's what I call it. The edge would shave in your hand, and then it opens up, gets kind of flat, or it's a fixed blade that's short and stubby, and now it just gets eaten alive, and it's not as efficient at cutting as if it was a lower approach angle. So low approach angle, and then cut on contact is the highest penetrator, bar none.
And does that relate to arrow flight as well? Like a lower approach angle is going to fly better if it has more blades, or not necessarily?
I can't answer that question. I do not know how to answer that question. I don't know the answer. I do know that this son of a gun right here, this guy flies like a dart, and it's long and narrow, like it's super aerodynamic. It's 350 grain tough head, Cape Buffalo broadhead, but well, it'll kill a deer. But that thing flies like a dart, and it's 3.5 inches long. When I do talks in person and hand them my arrows out, people are like, God, that thing looks like a spear. Yes, it's a spear. But going back to the bear shaft again, I realize I sound like a complete self-absorbed idiot. I am not the best shooter in the world, but when I can get I haven't had a lot of trouble. If I bear shafted and fletched with like 2.25 inch vanes and the air broadhead flight was a little weird, I would increase the vane a little bit. I said I wasn't going to talk about lift, but sorry.
Go ahead.
So that's a fixed blade broadhead. I got for those listening, I have an arrow with a field point in it, and I have fletchings on the front to help you understand what's happening. So people don't really understand how fletchings work, and I'm not going to get into that because it's a grain smoker. But they do understand there's some kind of draggy thing going on. So when you launch a fixed blade broadhead, it is pressing into the atmosphere, much like your understanding of fletchings, and it is a fight. The broadhead's in the atmosphere, and the fletchings are trying to make it stabilize. If the broadhead has more drag lift, technically, than the vanes or the fletchings, it wins. So I think what happens, if I'm following the industry line, is we're trying to haul ass. That's what everybody's trying to do, haul ass. So they put really small vanes on the back and put a fixed blade broadhead on, and the broadhead's winning the war. And it may just be 2 inches. Jesse, I don't think you're talking about having loops and stuff, right? You're just talking about it wandering or something. Like it's just not behaving. Yeah? Or are you talking about it like being crazy?
I've had it 20 yards completely miss a bale where almost on a 2-blade, I've had them plain, but historically it's always been with vanes. With feathers, I've had way more success with feathers. Obviously, there's a little bit more drag.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple other
They
rabbit
are.
holes. I didn't want to go down rabbit holes, but it's something that I want to ask because I have the opportunity to ask. Well,
we can do this again, but I am the rabbit hole expert, and I might not know the answer, but you're going to make content for me, so that's good, and I'll answer your question.
To me, honestly, when it seems to me like the amount, not necessarily the weight on the back of the arrow, like you're saying, because it seems like irrelevant. It almost seems like the amount of vane and the orientation, or like just the straight over how high profile it is, or just the amount of vane needs to be more than what the broadhead has.
You can only find that out by fiddling around with it. So, Jesse, I'm gonna go into the hole and then you steer me. Okay. The first thing I would look at if that was happening is I would stiffen, or I'd turn my poundage down. Just turn it down one crank. It's free. Like you could put it back, but you might be right on the edge of spine, because stiff arrows definitely shoot better with broadheads, with fixed blade broadheads. Mechanically, you can get away with murder. So, and I'll tell you why I know that. In the ultimate goals of the Ranch Fairy of increasing his forward of center and totally maxing it out for the arrow platform I have and not adding 150 to the front. So staying around 600 grains is about where I hunt, between 600 and 630. I went to a 300 spine arrow from a 250. Okay. 65 pounds, 28 and a half. I'm just an average normal guy. I got him to bear shaft. I said, freaking A, here we go. I just lost 25 grains in my system. FOC went up. I'm still about 600 grains. Good to go. Okay. I wasn't going any lower than that because of momentum. So I had fletched one that I had noctuned. This was day 2. So I got him to bear shaft. I said, shit, here we go. Came home, fletched up a couple, put broadheads on, and they were just weird. It was like I needed to fix my form or buy some kind of training device or shoot with a blindfold on. They would just, and when you kind of pull one, right? Like you shoot one, you go, shit, that was me. Nah. And it would go boonk, boonk, and then one would just go over there. Like it wasn't doing loops. It wasn't waving back at me or flippy flapping, tail dogging. And I put a 250 on and just kept going. So the reason why I say turn your poundage down is if you bought $200 worth of arrows, you bear shafted because the fairy told you to. Then the fairy said, fletch the thing up, put a broadhead on, and the broadheads are weird. You're probably right on, you're blowing the spine out a little, and turn it down a half a crank and shoot that broadhead again. You can put it right back. That may not fix it, but it's free. And you
See,
got $200.
a lighter pound bow, tuning fixed blades. And I think kind of what
Oh, yeah.
people get misconstrued with is they think they are set, within a parameter of you shoot 70 pounds, you need a 300 spine arrow. They don't really get into the logistics of you're putting so much front of center out front that your spine changes. They think they need to be in that 300 spine because that's
100%.
what the chart says. And then all of a sudden, well, I can't get a fixed blade to
100%.
fly, so I'm just going to shoot a expandable. And I've noticed that too. I've always
100%.
got, I think with newer bows, they're so efficient and they're getting faster that it's getting harder it's not getting harder to tune a fixed blade. We're getting the wrong information on how to tune a fixed blade.
The charts don't match.
Yes.
The charts don't match. 100% the charts are bullshit. Just throw them out. They don't mean nothing. Because here's why I say that. I've got a Bear Adapt that the hunting public bow. They gave me one. Okay. It's a single cam, super soft shooting, and it'll eat anything. The IBO on that is super slow at 70 pounds compared to flagship dual cam, 5-inch brace height, beast going 320. They're not the same 70-pound bow. Am I right about that?
And I'm glad you said soft shooting. There is a big difference between a soft shooting bow and an aggressive bow.
Correct. But they're both 70 pounds. So you go to the chart and your 29-inch draw and you're 70 pounds, it's Arrow X. Except you bought a flagship with a 5-inch brace height and a cams that are hard that pull back like that got that horrible wall or that horrible breakover. And then God forbid you get near the trigger because it's going. It's like a cheetah. It's like a greyhound in one of them pens just took a shit. He's about to fly out of that thing. And I had one of those and it was a difficult shoot. And it wasn't real heavy or anything. So 70 pounds doesn't mean anything. It's a starting point as far as spine is concerned. Now, there's only 2 spines that fly out of that with a real arrow, and that's 300 to 250. But because there aren't any more, they're in the 327, right? And then, here we go, Jesse. A guy pulling 31 at 70 pounds and a guy pulling 27 at 70 pounds isn't 70 pounds either. Because the amount of time it's on the string and the arrow's long and bendy, it's all over the place. That's why I couldn't, when I started exploring this and just decided to stop listening and said, I'm going to go try to figure this stuff out, bear shafts the only thing that saved me. And I have 4 or 5 different bows, right? That Adapt is real funny. It's 60 at 28 and a half. The chart says 300 with 300 up front. Okay? That's what the chart says. It will not shoot a 300. It wants a 350 because it's a soft shooting bow. We shot it and shot it. I was like, no way, it wants a 350 with 300 grains on the front of it.
My dad has the same bow and his spine is awfully weak for what he's only at like 55 pounds, but he's got like a 400.
Yeah, right. Because it's a soft shooting bow that doesn't jump out of your hand when you turn it loose.
Yeah.
But that turning the poundage down thing, if you get, again, I want to touch on that. If you get bear shafts to fly, you fletch up an arrow, put a broadhead on, and it's a little wild, turn the poundage down 1/2 crank and see what happens. and then turn it down another half. Like you're softening the bow to the spine that you've got that you didn't know was right on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't work, you crank it back up. It doesn't cost you anything.
Then do you notice any
That's
difference
worked for
in
a ton of my subscribers.
like a right or a left helical? Clocking your arrow, I've heard of that, and I've done a little bit of research on that. Where if you got a bow that shoots naturally left, you fletch it right, that arrow's knuckling out of the bow. And I think PJ Riley did a slow-mo video on Lancaster where the arrow was probably a good 2 feet out of the bow before that fletching even started to turn. And then he put a left-hand helical on it, and as soon as that knock left the string,
right
it was
out.
all, yeah.
So I've piddled around with that. I'm going to the shop this year. I'm going to let deer season pass because they're busy. This time of year, they won't be busy. One of the guys' tank up there thinks he thinks we can't figure it out. And I want to know. So yes, if your arrows launch left, they spin faster shooting left. And I have found that to be pretty solid. I shoot mostly right, and most of my shafts shoot left. And I've done this a lot. And I'm not putting a video up on it because it's not conclusive. Okay. But I've shot a ton of bear shafts and had two don't do anything. Most of them go left and one go right. So if you shoot one arrow and it goes left and you say it's done, I don't know. I don't think that's accurate. Tank thinks if we cut the serving off and spin it the other way, it's going to make it go right.
In theory,
Like, most people are right-handed, so they serve top to bottom. We spin it, if we work like we were left-handed and go uphill towards the top of the bow, he thinks he's going to fix it. And I said, I don't know. So we're going to do that.
It does have to do with which way the serving is served up or down the string, which way the arrow.
I had a bow strung. I had my cure strung with a backwards string. So there's some company out there that spins them the other direction.
Yep.
I don't remember which one, Gas or I don't remember which
ABP maybe, or one of those.
It may be America's Best. Jordan knew. I said, "Hey, can you put a string that's backwards on this one?" He goes, "Yeah, there's this one company that makes them," and it didn't do anything. I did notice that I've shot the cure a lot, so it's worn in, like right where the knocking point is been shot in a lot. Okay, when I got my brand new string, they all went left like hard. But the one that was worn in was the one that gave me different results. So I don't know yet. I'm still trying to pick that apart. I have left helical arrows on my big boy arrows. I've got some 720 grainers that are my serious big animal stuff. Or when I get mad at a pig and want to just break him, and they're left. And they fly like darts.
Yeah. I've had the best luck with like a 4-fletch left, like a slight left helical with fixed blades, and it seems to, whether that gets it spinning right away and whatnot, I've had really good luck with them flying right away.
Yeah,
that way.
No,
but who knows?
I've shot 4-fletch forever, but I primarily shoot 4-fletch. I don't shoot 4-fletch for a stability thing. One of Ed's writings, he was talking about shooting 4-fletch because if you're going to need to take a follow-up shot, and he was talking about on a buffalo, sometimes they don't run off. Like you shoot them and they look at you like, I hate you. And you need to shoot them again because they could stomp you to death. He said with a 4-fletch, despite the noctune, you could put it on not looking and it's going to be right every time. And you get a second arrow in them. So our scenario would be shoot a deer. He goes 20 yards and he's standing there wobbling. And you say, I'm hammering him until he falls down. You could just put it on, noctune aside, and send it, right? Without having to look. Whereas a 3-fletch, you could get it where some bows, you could hit the cables.
Yeah.
And that's not good for results, right? So that's the main reason I 4-fletch.
There's plenty of reasons.
Practical.
there's plenty of reasons why I just feel like 4 flats just makes sense. I mean, not that you have to have them, but there's a lot of advantages, I think.
There's a lot of advantages if you don't shoot lighted nocks, that you just have a much clearer picture too. It's a bigger ball going down range. Like, it's substantially easier to see. And I shoot all the same color. I don't like that clocking look when you have offset colors on your vanes. If I shot some crazy rest that had to have it up or whatever, I would literally put a Sharpie on it or so. I'd mark the vein. But I don't like that, like, 2 whites and a black. It's clocking, like it's click, 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 click going out. You don't really get a good ball flying at them. And I want to confirm impact. So when I go out west, I shoot lighted nocks at the pigs because it's cool for video. And I do like them for shot indication, especially shooting at night. So you can tell where you hit them and how quickly to get down and go after them. But when I go out west and I'm shooting out to 50, I don't shoot them. I don't trust them. I'm not going elk hunting and having a lighted knock be a little wonky and throw my arrow flight off. I'm just not doing it.
I've had them break.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah,
not. They're flimsy.
There's a lot of bad ones out there. There's a lot of them with really custom. The knock shape is real super custom, and it changes the geometry. It's the only thing touching the string.
It seems like they're either fit way too tight or way too loose. There's
There's all kind of problems with them. I've shot the Luminox forever, because the nocks are stock boning nocks. They're not some jammed ass thing that they made a knock around the battery or whatever. So those are the ones but I don't shoot them far. I shoot them out to 25, and that's that. So
sure. I just want to talk about mechanicals for a little bit. I have experience with them, so I feel like I understand them a little bit, but I just want to kind of talk about them with you, get your thoughts.
fantastic when they work. They ain't nothing like it.
Right. So I want to
When
get
they
your
work, it's awesome.
good, bad, ugly, or the reasons why you think they're an inferior broadhead. Like, what's your reasoning behind that?
Well, we talked a little bit about the blade approach angle, and that's just a ton of leverage. I mean, they're out like that, a lot of them. So they're chopping in massive amounts of resistance. It's just not the way you cut stuff. My experience with them was unbelievable or unbelievably bad. They were like bipolar. I never shot a deer and had it run 6,500 roll up. I had them just blood, like it was a commercial. Should have had a professional videographer, or I had horrible luck with them. Their greatest weakness of any mechanical is angles. It is 100% the greatest weakness of a mechanical. On a perfect broadside impact, they do okay because the blades deploy at the same. The blades come out equally and hit, and that's the most directional force in the direction that the arrow is traveling that is possible. But, and everybody listening to this, if you shoot a rear deploying 2-blade mechanical, put it into a target at a 45-degree angle and push it in real slow. And you're going to see one of the blade that's towards the meat is going to be on the meat. And the other one's just going to all of a sudden pop out at a crazy angle. So they show this locking back thing. That is not what happens when you have any angle. Okay. So do that and look at it and go, never thought of that. So put it at quartering away is classically the perfect shot. And I totally agree. Everything going forward when you're shooting a quarter away is good. You're going towards the front, 100%. But if you slide a mechanical in to a target and it's going 280, so this happens at a much higher rate, one of the blades will open and literally just sit on the hide. The other one will touch and open like fully. Then they keep pushing in, then they slam back, finally plumb up on the ferrule, and keep going. Here's the problem. For those of you not watching, When that blade deploys, if there's any angle whatsoever, even if that's angle downhill, whatever, ideally you'd be on the ground, perfectly broadside. The highest performance position for a mechanical on Earth. When that blade starts deploying and the blades don't deploy equally, the ass end of the arrow goes somewhere. Remember, it's attached. You immediately lose the knock is no longer following the point. There's hundreds of people that will tell you about mechanical broadheads going sideways and stuff, coming out the top, heading, just taking a right turn. And that's from the unequal deployment of the blades. That's the thing that drove me freaking nuts with them. Whereas a fixed blade broadhead, it's gonna
Yeah.
keep the knock's gonna stay behind the. That is not true. Let me back up. There is on an angled shot with a fixed blade, there will still be a little knock wiggle, but it's way less. And the knock's gonna more stay behind the broadhead, so it will keep going on the shot line. So this is a little bit of a brain smoker. Bear with me. The arrow has the whole arrow has mass. Okay? Everybody's like, yeah, dumbass. We understand that. Not yet. As the arrow approaches, if it deflects at all, the arrow is trying to go on the original shot line, but the broadhead turned the arrow. So most people think of this as the knock trap moving. What's actually happening is the arrow's trying to fly sideways. The arrow still wants to go the direction it was fired, and the broadhead says, no, I'm going over here. The shaft has mass, and you can't make it redirect. It doesn't follow the broadhead. The weight can't follow the broadhead. I had to think about that a lot when an aerodynamics guy told me that. He was making really long tank penetrators, and they were having trouble with them deflecting, and the thing is so heavy that the middle of the thing wanted to go that way, and the point went to the side. And I went, oh, God, I didn't think about that. He goes, yeah, y'all see it. He wasn't an archer, but he was helping me figure this stuff out. He said, y'all think of it as knock. The knock is kicking. It is. That's because the shaft is still trying to go the direction you shot it. The shaft. And the broadhead says, nah, I'm going over here. It's a war. And it just sucks the energy out of them. So that's my biggest concern with that.
Sure.
Very few shots are perfectly broadside. I mean, really,
Right.
come on.
And then on top of that, how many of the blades are that high quality to where after they go through that hide that they're gonna not dull up
Still
right
be
away?
super sharp. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't
They'll
see
be in
very
one
many of
piece.
expandables after you pick it up off the ground, even if you do get a pass through, and you even think about
They look like
sharp
the blades were in an S shape from the torque. And, when
Okay.
they hit, they're spinning.
I've had them with broken blades ready too.
Yeah,
You
Jesse?
lose. You lose.
Yeah, I had a few snap off.
Yeah.
The pigs are really hard on them because the ribs are so close together. Like you're hitting bone. There's no free lunch. You'd have to hit perfectly vertical every time, but there's no free lunch on a pig. Them bastards. And then think about this, right? Here's broadside, quartering away, like that, right? You are now shooting bone. There's no option. So for those I just showed my hand, but for those on audio, go to a picket fence, stand broadside to it, and then walk it to a 45-degree angle and watch those gaps close up. You're going down the bone. There's no other way to get in. It's just a physiological fact. So that's the biggest weakness of them. And then I it just sickens me. This is just a lot of years of thinking about this crap and looking at it and watching it happen. One of the things that scares the hell out of me about this sport from a lethality standpoint is there are a ton of people who shoot a bunch of deer because 90% of this is deer. The Western game makes a big hoo-ha, but whitetails pay the bills. Screw those guys. So they'll shoot 4 or 5 deer, and then they finally get a drawn elk tag. And they don't make any changes. And 3 of the deer they shot, the arrow didn't pass through. And they're now going to go shoot a 700-pound bull, and they're 0 into 80 with an arrow that won't go through a deer. That's terrifying. Elk are big. Like, they're just a different thing to shoot. And those same people own 243s and a 300 Win Mag. And they would take the 300 elk hunting. We should take the 243. It's a deer rifle, shoots the shit out of them, kills the crap out of them. But they won't do it. But they'll shoot an arrow that won't go through a deer and an elk, and try to shoot it out to 80 yards. And you don't even want to know about the momentum out there. Oh, a 450 grain arrow at 80 yards, it's a popcorn fart on momentum side. It's got nothing left. It's a ballistic freaking dud out there. It loses 35 or 40% of its momentum at 80. Not 10. It's ridiculous. So that's what bothers me on the mechanical side is if you get in, like nowadays, you go in the rabbit hole and whatever you choose to watch. I watch a lot of fishing. So I'm currently convinced that the hybrid hunter is the best crankbait on earth. I'm throwing the hell out of it. But you go in the hole, you start watching mechanical stuff, and you constantly see half an arrow in, maybe to the fletch on a good one, what I consider completely unacceptable penetration on deer. And that your head just sees that. That's what's supposed to happen. And then you draw a deer tag in Colorado, and you're going to shoot a 300-pound mule deer at 60. It's not the same. It's not rational.
Yeah. And I kind of want to touch on this too, flip it around. And there's always going to be a percentage of people that, never practice in the summer. And personally, my opinion, whether yours differs or not, there's some people that I would recommend them to them because they don't put the effort into their setup that they need to where maybe they will make them efficient for the amount that they go out in their situation.
Yeah, I just wish they made more mechanicals that were an inch and an eighth or inch and a half wide with angles like this. Like, just make the blades longer and come in at a better angle of attack as opposed to this choppy thing.
And like you said, if you're going to go that route, there are better styles of them than others. And you have to be careful on shot angles.
You have to be disciplined 100%. I did a podcast with Snyder, one of them, and he said he's got a buddy who shoots like 380 grain arrows and shoots mechanicals, and he kills elk left and right, but he hunts like every day of the elk season, and he's super disciplined. And I said, okay, I can accept that guy for saying, I only shoot this far, I only take this angle, but he hunts 90 days for elk.
That's not a lot of people.
No. We all get to go. The minute work ends on Friday, we're driving overnight to get to Colorado. You really only have 5 days to hunt because you got to get home because Sunday's baseball. We had sex at the wrong time and these little shits come along and you're under pressure, like you're shooting. So I'm not going to disagree with you on the argument. At least they're shooting straight. I just wish some of the mechanical manufacturers would get more practical on the angles. That edge going in, chopping in, doesn't help sharpness.
Right.
Sharp is a big thing. It's way more important than you realize.
Yeah. So let's wrap up this mechanical talk with one thing. Let's make your recommendation. If there was a person that says, I'm never going away from mechanicals, but you want them to have maybe the best style that you believe is the best, like, is it front deploying, rear deploying? what material, certain blade thickness, like what mechanical would you tell someone who is diehard mechanical?
You shoot Bomar's head. I'm no Josh Bomar fan. I don't know anything about the guy. That's the best mechanical I've ever shot. We've tested it a little bit. He's
And
done a
is
good
there,
job with the ferrule. He's done a good job with the blades. He's got that thing where they kind of flex back a little bit. It does a pretty good job for me. It still has the deployment issue. It still has the angles issue. And Josh Bomar shoots like 90 pounds and he's a 31-inch draw and his arrows are like 580. Everybody lets him get away with that. And don't talk about I'm the idiot who shoots heavy arrows. He shoots long draw, high poundage, and heavy arrows. He don't get any shit for that. Right? That's my beef with I don't really follow him or anything, but I know enough about it to say, how come I'm crazy? He's off the charts compared to the normal bow on the planet of Earth is 65 pounds at about 29 inches, give or take 5 pounds. Come on, that's 80% of them for men, right? 25 pounds and 120 grains heavier. And they're just like, yeah, gonna work. But as far as mechanicals are concerned, yeah.
it's the wrong way, but maybe you just need to get some heavier dumbbells and start drinking some protein shakes. And
Yeah, I know. Do some steroids. Can't tell I'm on steroids and got the freaking Botox. Man, I look pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm the dumbass, right? It's like, I can take your bow right now, put a 600 grain arrow on, increase your momentum like 25%, get arrows that fly like crazy with high forward to center, put a broadhead on there, and they are never stopping on a deer. The only thing that's going to stop them is if they're moving and you hit the elbow joint in the humerus. It might stop it. But it's wild. It's just wild what happens. I have a whole playlist where I shot a 42-pound bow. I shot it at 26 inches. So I'd draw and I'd go like this. Literally. And I shot arrows up to 700 grains and I killed the crap out of stuff with that thing. The whisker biscuit wouldn't hold the shaft. I couldn't get a drop away to work. It wouldn't fall fast enough. I had to put a whisker biscuit on. So what I had to do was put my finger under the arrow. The arrows were so heavy they went through the biscuit. So I'd draw it when it was in the biscuit. Here, I mean, there's pigs in front of me.
Yeah.
I'd go like this. I'd raise it up. It would sit in the bristles, and I'd go, gotta hope this works. Because if it falls through, it's going to rocket off. It's going to be hilarious. Just shoot 80 feet in the air. And I would go and that arrow was going 160 or something. And just hammering them. I wasn't getting pass throughs, but I was killing them deader than a hammer. It was so fun. I mean, that was so fun. It's so impractical. Like you just dink and then pull back kind of like this. And
sure,
it was really fun.
that's cool. Well, that's all I really had as far as the mechanical thing. I just wanted to kind of just touch on it. It's not your thing. It's not your game. It's not what you want to do, and that's fine. We'll leave it there.
I'm on the short end of the stick here. We're going to be it'll be 50 or greater percent of people shoot mechanicals forever. It's just the theoretical blood trails and the holes will never not sell. That's always going to be because they get the best footage they can of the perfect hit where blood just gushes out the sides and you cut the back of the heart off and it's just spraying out. That's all the marketing material. They don't show all the shit show shots where the thing goes sideways or doesn't penetrate or bounces off or doesn't deploy. They're not showing that. They're showing broadheads, right? And remember, we kind of started with this. I'm an arrow in the dirt absolutist. My goal is always the arrow's in the dirt. If I make a shooting error, so be it. Can't be the arrow. And it's just the way it's just my stance. It's just the way after all, this is almost my 10th year doing this crap. Lots of testing. And I mean, I've shot my arrow with my broadhead. I shot a pig right here went off the top of his skull, and the only thing that stopped it was the veins. They were hung in the, it went under between his jaw and out the top of his skull. And we did it with a hunting public this year, and I shot one sideways, and it just, I had to have a target behind it to catch it. And it was still shaven after going through a pig right above the ears, which shocked me. I was surprised it was still shaven. That's a pretty brutal test. Side head shot on a pig. It's really fun to screw around with all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like a unlimited test subjects, like you were saying before on the phone.
Yeah, there's no laws. You can shoot all you want. You can. This year, I'm actually gonna. Ed gave me a rifle that was one of his test rifles for Barnes bullets, and I'm gonna shoot just to do testing. I'm just gonna shoot him with Ed's rifle, but I'm gonna bake that into the videos and say, hey man, I'm out here with Ed's gun. This is kind of cool, right? Smash them. And the reason why I want to do that is I've got cameras on my feeders, and if they come out early, I can get one and then shoot with the sun up.